A note. Following advice from work-life imbalance may lead to action being taken by HR, your family, the authorities, or higher powers. Welcome to Work-Life Imbalance, an advice show focusing on workplace and lifestyle issues. Any resemblance to actual advice, living or dead, or actual wisdom is purely coincidental. I'm your monstrous manager, Frank Easton.
And I'm your lovable office companion, Derek Lewis.
Today we'll be talking about not-so-voluntary giving in the deep dive before we address some audience questions and issues from the internet. But first, time for the daily stand-up. So the thing I wanted to talk about today, Derek, was what would I do without you?
Probably have an intellectual podcast that is not so full of fart jokes.
So, earlier in the weekend, you had said you weren't feeling well.
Uh-huh.
And Sunday, I was busy. There was a storm. I figured you weren't feeling well, so I just let it go. I figured, all right, we'll try to do it the next day.
Uh-huh.
The next day, which is today, is pretty much like the last day in which we could do a recording and still get it out on time.
Right.
And I hadn't heard from you. And I swear to God, half of today, Derek, I have been sitting here trying to figure out what the fuck I am going to do for this goddamn podcast by myself.
Okay. So a little backstory. Apparently my Hangouts just does not update properly, and occasionally I will just go hours without receiving the messages that I've received on Hangouts. And so I was at the gym at 5:30ish, something like that. I saw I had a message on my phone. Maybe it was like 6 o'clock. And so I saw that I had a message from Frank. Basically it was the second half of the message that said, "Hope everything is okay." I was like, what's going on? And so I checked, and I actually had a message from noon, which I hadn't received. So I texted Frank back saying, "No, I'm not dead. I'm fine." I mean, I just...
And this is like 3 hours before we're supposed to record, so I will have you know, up until that moment, sir, I was sitting here planning Frank's solo adventure on the podcast, and I quote from other people, "I don't think you'd be funny by yourself." And I'm like, thanks.
I love that. That is just fantastic. But see, the thing is,
You're not wrong, but thanks.
No, and the thing is, I think that honestly, that's probably the truth. But the thing is, me by myself, that would not be funny either. I think there's this perfect combination of your, kind of playing the straight man, and me just, shouting fart jokes at you. There's some chemistry there that we can't capture. We are something greater than the sum of our parts. Or whatever the fuck that saying is.
Something greater than the sum of our parts.
See? There we go. I couldn't get there, and you took it across the finish line.
I was gonna say I had to run it across the finish line.
I got it to the 1 yard line and fumbled.
It's teamwork. It's teamwork, baby.
That's fucking teamwork.
But literally, I was sitting here all right, let's see. I'm gonna have to come up with a bit at the last second that, oh boy, this is gonna be rough. But if Derek's down for the count, I guess I'm gonna have to put the helmet on and drive into the trench and do this thing by myself.
Oh my God, I'm sorry that I put you through so much stress, Frank. But and see, here's what's so frustrating is that this has happened in some other instances, both to you and to other people. Like people just message me and I'll just go hours without getting messages. I don't know I don't know what to do because it happens on both text and on Hangouts. So like I don't know what it is. And it leads to things like this. Like my sister would message me on Facebook Messenger and I would go like 12 hours without getting a notification, and then then I'll read it, and like it was something that was very much so time specific, and I'll realize that it is far, far, far beyond the time when she needed an answer. So yeah, that shit happens all the time. But of all the people that it's happened to, Frank, I'm sorry. I feel the worst that it happened to you. Because
well, as long as you recognize that that it was worse that it happened to me than it happened to your sister.
Okay,
but I was ready. I was ready to soldier on without you, Derek,
know.
if I had to. I didn't want to.
I want to know
but
what machinations you've come up with, because I think that this is a healthy exercise to go through, because there may be a day where I am incapacitated, some sort of clam and or bathroom related accident will render me incapable of recording.
You had the clams and then you slipped in the bathroom.
It's cause and effect, baby. So okay, if we were to kind of spitball some ideas, what could a one man work-life imbalance look like?
So I was thinking that I would do a 45-minute segment called "And Another Thing."
And what would the content of this generally be?
And it would just be like in the style of a political rant, but it would be about something that goes on in the office. But it would be not funny. That's the thing. Like, I have to have somebody to bounce stuff off of, so it would really just be me droning on for 45 minutes about shit nobody cares
just
about.
Just kind of flitting from topic to topic, not really like, giving any commentary on each of them, just kind of saying that they are a thing.
Oh, right, yeah. Exactly. Not one subject for 45 minutes. No, it would just be a segment entitled "And Another Thing," and it would just be me talking about how much I hate Keurig K-Cups, and another thing.
See, and here's the other danger of that. Not only would that possibly not be as funny as intended, it would actually also run through a lot of our potential material. So, like, all the things...
Yeah, that's it. I don't want to burn a bunch of material on shit that's not going to be worthwhile. That would be terrible.
That would be terrible. So, okay, if you didn't do that one... Okay, you did one. So, what would mine be? If I were to have to solo host the podcast, I don't know, maybe it would be a list of like a 45-minute diatribe of thinly veiled references to people that kind of grind my gears. Maybe not even like individuals, but just like the type of people. And eventually the last person I would describe would probably be like me. Like I would get around to, essentially summing up that I don't like anybody. Or that everybody is equally disliked by Derek. I don't know. I
hate co-hosts of shows that don't show up when they're supposed to show up and leave their other co-host to have to host a show by himself.
Yeah, like I said.
Those kinds of people are terrible.
Like I said, me. Uh-huh. Oh, God. Yeah, I mean, even just saying those things out loud, I can tell how horrible they would be. Actually, I take that back. It would not be a 45-minute session of me bitching about random coworker archetypes. It would actually be on like the latest Netflix show that I'd binged. So like at this point, if you had told me, Derek, I'm all fucked up, I can't do the podcast, I've got the cholera, I would probably have gone on a 45-minute diatribe about Terrace House, to be honest.
See, I think we'll keep this one in the bag, Derek, and what we can call it is Derek's Netflix and Chill.
If
I'll go ahead and I'll try to get like some sexy music to cue up the segment for, and then you can just Netflix and chill.
Because if there is one thing that you can distill down from my contributions to this podcast, it's fucking sex appeal. It's 100%. I have discussed more about my bowel movements than either of us have. Like, even in private, I have discussed my bowels less than I have on this podcast. Like, I don't know what it is. There's something about talking to the people that makes me want to talk about my bowel movements. So
You're just prematurely aging, because I think once you hit your 70s and 80s, it's completely socially acceptable to just be like, let me talk to you about my last BM.
now I kind of want to do, because I was talking to somebody. God, I was talking to somebody. No, I was talking to another podcast about potential like
Who
spin-off.
you been talking to, Derek?
Nobody can replace you, Frank. I'm
You been talking to other podcasts, Derek?
look, sometimes, maybe I'm just not getting everything that I need from you. So there's a small amount of podcast infidelity going on, but it's not, they mean nothing to me. I promise, they mean nothing.
All right, Derek. We can see other podcasts.
As long as we always come home to this podcast, that's fine.
Exactly. As long as we always come home to this podcast, and as long as we can both see other podcasts, because
whoa,
there's a couple of podcasts
that's
out
not
there
what
that-
I said. I said I was seeing other podcasts.
Oh yeah, no, this isn't gonna work for me, baby.
No. Okay. I'll roll it back. It can be equilateral. We can all be a big, loving, open podcast relationship. How about that?
All right, I think that'll work for me.
And that's good that you interrupted me, because what I was going to say probably wasn't funny. So you really kind of saved me there.
Want to get to the deep dive?
Yeah, now that I'm around to do it, let's go ahead and do it. All right, this week on the deep dive, we're going to talk about not so voluntary giving, the fundraisers, donations, and pledge drives that you don't have to give to, but you have to. So, Frank, I wanted to ask you, why do you think companies do this? I know there's an obvious answer here, but why do companies do this, where they'll have these pledge drives and things like that, where they very clearly state it is voluntary, but there is some sort of stigma attached to not giving, and they lean so hard into it? Well, why do you think they do that?
It's 100%, I think, good press. Like, that's the major reason to do it, is that for whatever reason they're going to get good press out of this as being the kind of organization that cares.
Okay, so it's not necessarily just to increase the monetary result. It is so that they have more people contributing, so that they can then spin it as PR to say, we are a company that is like, donated this much, or we are 75% of our employees donate to this type of thing to make themselves look better.
Yeah, that is it in a nutshell. Like, people may have noticed that I'm something of a pessimist.
What?
That is ever
news.
So slight a misanthrope am I. So I know that any company is only doing anything in order to make themselves look better and or increase profits.
Right.
And looking better is just a methodology by which they get to increase profits.
Right. It's kind of a two-step process of increasing profits, instead of just the increasing profits part. Yeah, I think that from the times that I've seen this, I think that you're exactly right, that essentially that positive PR that they can then put on a fucking brochure, or put on a poster or something, and really just tell people how good they are. That, I mean, not only is that probably the primary reason for most of this, but it also just irks me on such a deep level. Like, I've donated to multiple things before, like the ACLU and Planned Parenthood, all that kind of stuff. Like, I've donated all these things. You don't see me stapling that to the fucking Sunshine Board. Like, you don't see me like printing out flyers for myself that I donated to these things. Why do companies feel that the only way to get positive PR is to go out of their way for some of these donations and pledge campaigns?
Well, I'm sure it's not the only place that they get positive PR, but it's a pretty easy one because if they do a match even and they can get the employees involved, it's halving the amount of money that they have to put in
Okay.
because it's their money regardless.
Right.
Like if the employer is doing a match to the amount of money their employees put in, the money that their employees put in is their money, like that the company already gave them.
Right. Okay.
So it's kind of coming and going at that point. Like we raised $1 million and then we matched $1 million from our employees. You gave $2 million and $1 million of it came from your employee paychecks.
Right.
Like that's essentially how it goes. And as I said, sure, I'm a bit of a misanthrope, but yeah, as you said, I think it's just the amount to which there is horn tooting, and that the fact that it's voluntary but definitely not voluntary. Like generally when you get stuck in these sort of situations, there's a meeting that you have to go to where everyone is very quick to say that no one has to give.
That's when you know the trap has been sprung. Like when
Exactly.
when like literally above the doorway it says you don't have to participate, you're like, oh fuck. It's time.
Oh God!
I'll start pulling out my wallet.
They're going
now.
to lay it on pretty thick, and it's definitely that sort of situation where it's like you don't have to give, but what kind of no good, low down son of a bitch wouldn't give to these orphans?
And that's the kind of shit they do. Like, I understand. Like, there are some really good, charity organizations out there that you should be donating to. Like, that is absolutely not even a question. If you have the means, you should find one that matches your morals, not the NRA, and you should donate to them, to the best of your ability. That is something that I think that all of us that have means should do. The problem that I have is basically my employer kind of twisting my arm and telling me this is the one that we like the best. Like just for example, I think at this point it's pretty safe to say that like Susan G. Komen like is probably like the worst of the worst because like 85% of their money they get does not go to helping breast cancer people. It's just
most of their money goes to having money for them to make money.
Well,
like,
and it's advertising.
It's just for the cycle.
Like they increase breast cancer awareness by selling more ads. So essentially, they just increase the amount of people who have heard about Susan G. Komen and do nothing for the breast cancer community. So if my employer was like, we support Susan G. Komen and you guys need to give to it, I would say fuck that. Like honestly, I would even have a problem working for them because either that's either you're in on the racket and you believe in this, or B, you didn't even do a Google check. Like at least check and see who you're donating to. Obviously most of the ones are not going to be like that. A lot of them that are around here are United Way, and United Way is an amazing organization. I have nothing against United Way, but they do kind of lay it on thick. Like you go into the presentation and they parade people in front of you that have been helped by United Way, and of course they're touching stories. But that's the thing. It's not that these people's stories don't need to be told. It's just their sole purpose for coming into this room and telling these people is to say, look at how bad I've got it, and only you can prevent forest fires. Like they are Smokey the Bear of poverty and homelessness. Like,
and that's like, even that is fine. It's just it's sort of being put in that situation where it's the hard sell, where it's like, now if you don't give, you are definitely an asshole.
Right.
Like, and not everybody, I understand, relishes being an asshole. Like, it's not necessarily a position that a lot of people want to occupy as they move through the world.
So there's, I'll kind of change the direction just a little bit on this. So obviously there are some things that are just purely, they're good things to give to, but it's just the way that they go about it, it's some pretty not shady tactics, but they're pulling on the heartstrings a little too hard, and kind of going about it to where it ends up being a little bit distasteful. Not entirely, but it's effective. So whatever it takes to get the money to the people that need it. The kind of donation prompting or solicitation for donations that really gets to me, and I hope that nobody that I used to work with at one of my previous companies hears this. There used to be this time of the year around Christmas where essentially some of our like front desk people, essentially they made like half or less of what the rest of us did, because they were kind of seen as non-essential personnel, and they didn't really get paychecks that, or they got paychecks that kind of lined up with that assessment.
Oh no!
And so they got underpaid. They would go around, and we had 150, 250 people in the company, and they were essentially saying, you should all give $20 to this fund, and we're going to give it to them as a gift. And my first response was, oh, fuck no. You essentially are wanting us, you're wanting us to subsidize the fact that you are shitty at paying people? No, that is just, it is blatant. Like it boggles my mind that they even thought that was okay to do. If it is
pay them a living wage, pay me $50 a year less. Like that kind of thing, I am 100% okay with. Like if I'm taking a small pay hit so that the other people in the organization can actually have a living wage,
absolutely do it.
I've got no fucking problem with
that. Do it twice.
Like,
I don't give a
100%.
Shit. Yeah. Totally.
But if you're like, man, wouldn't it be great if these people didn't have to live in poverty? The people that we're paying who work here.
The people that say hi to you every morning. The people that you come in and have a smile waiting for you, and possibly have like, hey, you got some mail, things like that. People that do good things for you, we're not paying them enough. So, and the thing is that they have these tactics that where you feel like an asshole doing it, because they will go like room to room, desk by desk, in front of everyone else, and have you like essentially cough up $20. Like I would watch people, like they're going around, people are coughing up $20, $30, $15 if they just happen to have that in their wallet.
Oh, we're only paying them $9 an hour, and wouldn't it be great if everybody got together and pitched in and made it so they could have a decent Christmas? I'm like, fuck you!
Fucking verbatim. Like word for word. That's the kind of shit that they would say. In the middle of the room, hopefully not with these people in earshot. Oh my God, it just got me so steamed. And the thing is, like, those people are in bad situations. Like, it very well is possible that this little bonus they got every year was what helped them buy Christmas. That blows my fucking mind. And that's part of the reason that I left the company. Because I was like, you're continuing to do this. You're continuing to subsidize the salaries of your employees with your other employees that are already making like 20% under market value. Like, we were better off, but we were still like 20% under market value. And there's no way that this is okay. And it kind of goes into the same way that I feel about like tipping, which I'm not going to get into that because that's a whole nother discussion.
See, we're getting into my other thing and another thing. Like, this is my bit. There we are. We're here. We've arrived at Frank's and another thing.
The whole point of it is, if you are a company that is hiring somebody and you are relying on somebody else to subsidize their paycheck because you won't do it, that makes you a shitty person. And tipping, donations, all that kind of stuff, those type of things all fall into that same category of, if you have to get other people to donate to these people and you already pay them, you're just not paying them enough. That's all there is to it. Man, This was not a fucking funny bit at all, was it? Like,
Frank and Derek get real heated up about
all right, so let's try to top it off with a slightly funny way. So if you were to be in this situation, what's a funny being obviously a slightly relative term, How can you weasel out of it? Like, how can you get out of one of these, fundraisers or pledge drives or anything like that? How can you get out of it without, or if you can't save face, how do you do it and at least be funny about it?
The first thing that comes to mind is the classic bit for if the policeman fraternal society calls asking you for a donation, is you say, I already gave at the office. Because it's fucking delicious if you say that while you're standing in the office.
Oh God. And I mean the confidence that you have to deliver that and actually like completely see it through to where they, if they're like going down a line of people like asking for, their donations and to sign up for it and things like that, and you literally like, basically stand your ground long enough for them to walk to the next person. Man, that's confidence that can that we can be proud of. Yeah, I honestly I can't even think of a funny way to do it. Like, because it just, I said this was going to be a funny bit. I said we were going to finish funny. I'm still mad. Like, I'm just thinking, like, those motherfuckers.
The funniest bit is Derek jumping up on his desk and just screaming, Viva la Revolucion.
I'm mad as hell, and I'm not going to take it anymore.
Seize the means of production. Power to the people.
Oh, my God. Oh, we're gonna have to make up for that in the second half of this episode, Frank. We got a lot of debt to pay off.
I'm gonna entitle this one just really bummer episode, just so everyone knows before they download it. Just the title is really bummer episode. That's all.
First, we talk about what life would be like without one of us having the other, and then we talk about how to be cheap and not give in to the poor, starving children. Boy.
I wonder if I'd get sued if I use the Hulk walking away theme for our trip to accounting.
As we hang our head in shame. Oh, but let's go all the same.
All right, Derek, how about time for the review retrospective?
That sounds wonderful.
So the first one we've got today is 5 stars by Big Brother B, entitled Bringing Up GBBC in an EP, instant 5 stars. You guys have a fantastic rapport. Your banter sounds like it comes easy, and it's like hanging out with your buds. Keep up the great work. So they like Great British Baking.
Always makes for a good show, I feel. Even if we can't be as charming as some of the folks on the Great British Bake Off, at least we can talk about them.
So my question for you, Derek, is: are you Mary Berry, or are you Paul Hollywood?
I think just by the definition of our character, I am Mary Berry and you're Paul Hollywood. Because I like to, and maybe the first part of this podcast was not indicative of that, but I tend to be more of the kind, loving nature, and I feel you are more in a constant state of disapproval until someone proves you otherwise. So yeah, I think that about sums it up.
All right, so I'm the silver fox, and you're the pleasant drunk grandmother.
I could do worse, Frank.
Our next is another 5-star review, rolling good, by Sean Faust. Sean Faust.
Sean Faust. Sean Faust.
Enjoyably deadpan. The deadpan delivery on this show is excellent. Got a chance to talk to Derek the other day and was pointed in the right direction on where to start here, and I'm glad I did. Episode 7 is so good. I'm currently listening to episode 9, then 10, etc. Consider me a new fan. So was episode 7 like our best episode, Derek?
I'll give you one guess as to which episode I pointed it to.
Oh, which episode is it? I can't think.
It was the one with the most up until that point, the highest density of potty humor.
Ah, okay.
With the one with talking about cleanliness,
Hand washing?
and hand washing. Yeah.
That's probably some of my most passionate work, Derek.
Yeah, you definitely you could really tell how passionate you are about stopping the spread of penis germs and other such germs. Which is not an unrighteous cause. I mean,
No, all I've got to say is wash your nasty fucking hands, everybody.
and I believe that is Sean Faust from the What Does It Matter podcast. Been a good friend of the show. Appreciate the feedback, man. All right, and this week on the Indie Podcast Corner, I promise I do not have a jingle for it this time.
What are you doing,
but-
Derek? You're killing me here. Like, we promised a jingle on the last show, and by promised I mean I mentioned it and honestly expected you to come through.
And I swear I tried, except for the fact that my guitar needs a 9-volt battery, and
What?
I don't have any fucking 9-volt batteries, man.
Your guitar requires a 9-volt battery? Was it made by Fisher
Yeah.
fucking Price?
No, it's made by Alvarez. It's a good guitar, but it's like 18 years old. So like maybe not quite that old. It's like 14 years old. They hadn't quite perfected electricity back then.
I see.
So they couldn't do as much with phantom power. You have to have onboard power, and it's weird. It's like built into the guitar, but you have to get in it to it from the sound hole, which doesn't sound like a big hassle, except for the fact you have to loosen all the strings up. And I just put those strings on.
Oh, that sounds
And
terrible.
I really don't want to undo that, but I promise in short order I will have a jingle. I will not promise that it will be good. But it will be a jingle. And then based on listener feedback, it may be the only time it appears. But
Just a one and done.
one and done.
You know what else sounds
All right,
terrible,
so-
Derek? The
What's
words
that?
sound whole.
And if you think about it, like that applies to a lot of different
I mean,
things.
that applies to both
that
of
can
us
also
in
be-
this fucking podcast, I think.
Oh God. I'm sorry that I said sound hole. That does not roll off the tongue as well as I thought. All right, this week at the Indie Podcast Corner, it is One Giant Leap for Geeks. This is a podcast by hosts Mike C Squared and DJ Melly Mel. They discuss all things pop culture in the geek world and give a review for them. They are very funny and often very insightful about things that are geek culture related. Definitely worth listening to. I've listened to, I think I'm 5 or 6 episodes back in the catalog. The problem with them, and not necessarily a problem for someone like me who doesn't necessarily get to go see Avengers Infinity War, Deadpool. I am so far behind on geek pop culture that anything like half the last episodes they've done in the past 2 months have been spoilers, and I can't listen to them, so I have to avoid them like the plague. The latest one was not too rich with spoilers, unless the movie Spawn. It's one you want to remain unspoiled for.
Like the Spawn from, what was that, the early to mid 90s?
Yes. And like comics and things like that, like the entire Spawn universe and things like that. So yeah, if you're into comics or geek culture or geek movies, Marvel Cinematic Universe, all of that, they talk about it quite a bit. So they are they're really funny to listen to, and it's certainly a great listen. Once again, that is the One Giant Leap for Geeks podcast, and you can find them on Twitter at Giant Leap 4 Geeks.
Now, do you think I could get a cool name on this podcast, like DJ Melly Mel?
I mean, Well, and to be honest, when I read their names, because I'd like heard them say them before, I didn't really give a whole lot of thought to them. But then when I like when I went to go look for them, I was like, man, those are some cool ass names. Like we're just a couple of assholes with using our real names. Like that's awful.
I mean, I announced for roller derby, so I've got I've got my nom de guerre, like that, so I can bring that over to the podcast. But I don't know if that's necessarily on brand for us.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, I have I have never had any significant nicknames that were repeatable in mixed company. Like the best one I think is Dirty D. But then again, like that's not even that's not even like specific to just me. Like anybody that has a name that starts with D, they could be Dirty D. So like I didn't feel quite as special.
Well, how about this?
One of these days.
How about, because to stay on brand for us, DJ Khaki and Seersucker Slim.
So I like the Slim. Like that's funny, and maybe eventually it will actually be relevant. The part I'm not so thrilled about is the sucker part. That has connotations that I'm not sure that I'm willing to tie my boat to.
Oh, but Derek, it's a type of fabric that is especially popular for making suits here in the horrid, humid, hot for 7 to 8 months out of the year South.
Is that true?
Yeah, seersucker. It's kind of similar to the fabric that you'd make pajamas out of.
Oh, well, that's more informative than I thought that answer would be.
This is just where like I cue up that rainbow with the fucking star. Like the more you know. Frank's useless fucking trivia corner, brought to you by.
One of these days, I've been seeing kind of a spat of game show related episodes of other podcasts. So at some point, we may have to do a game show that is essentially just useless shit trivia. We may have to workshop that one. may not be funny, but it would be revealing.
Frank's LinkedIn shit posts.
Hi, this is Two Girls on a Bench.
The podcast. So we're two writers who tend to procrastinate just a bit.
We like to snack. We like to talk.
We don't have time to write, but we have time to do this podcast.
We certainly do. Join us on the bench.
Listen in.
At number 2 Girls on a Bench.
All right, Derek, you want to get to an audience question?
Let's do that.
How do you tell a coworker they have body odor that is so bad everyone can smell it and they need to, work on it? BT Dubs, this was a woman. Sent in by Shauna from Two Girls on a Bench.
Oh wow! So we got a nice little double play going on.
Yeah, back to back.
Yeah, because we had Trisha. I believe, was it last week?
It was.
Shauna?
It was.
Wow.
I thought that it would be a good sort of pairing. Keep those two together and not leave them floating in the wind separate from one another.
So what they need to do is they need to bring on a third host for their podcast. Have them send in a question to complete the hat trick. So
there we go.
So Trisha and Shauna, if you get on that, they don't have to be a permanent host. I'm not saying that you need to completely change your podcast to solely fit this bit. But if you were to do so, that would be wonderful.
Two girls, a Bigfoot on a bench.
See, there we go. If I had to say something that was missing from their show, I think it would be some sort of cryptozoological creature. And yeah, I think that fits. Anyway, we were asked a question, and I believe that as per the agreement that we signed when we started this podcast, I believe we need to at least try to answer the question.
So, to keep rolling with the theme, this is where you can just begin having a conversation about the legendary skunk ape.
And then imply that they were somehow a part of the same family tree.
It's like, you know what else smells terrible? The legendary skunk ape of the Pacific Northwest.
I love that, starting with the else part, because they're not going to catch up. They're not going to catch it at first, but then later on, maybe when they're driving home, filled, in their car, which I assume has to be some sort of like Dodge Astro or something, or is that a Chevy Astro, Dodge Astro, whatever. Their crappy mid '90s van, filled with their own stink. They'll be thinking, oh, wait. Why did she say else? Does that mean? And see, that could be kind of a sideways way of introducing that into their minds to maybe do a little bit of a BO check. But no, in all seriousness, like this is a serious. This is one of the tougher things that I think I've had to deal with in the office.
Has this actually come up for you?
It has. Not for me personally, because if there's anything that I am a pleasantly smelling guy. Like, that is something that is the top of my list. I may look a fucking mess, but I'm gonna smell like I just came out of fucking Abercrombie and Fitch. Like, I can't get the looks, but I can afford the smell.
Derek, we have to have an intervention now. Axe body spray on a man your age. It's not a good look, baby.
Oh, God. I'll take it under advisement. That's fine. But no, I have had to have a conversation about this with somebody that I was a manager of. And it was a really tough conversation, because the thing is, people kind of get nose blind to the smells that are on themselves. Like, because typically, most of the time, people themselves aren't necessarily all that stinky. Like, most people know, if they're an adult, they probably have a decent self-cleaning ritual. That's a really weird way to describe that. God bless.
I sat down and sort of licked myself clean.
I mean, your body is clean, but your breath smells terrible.
Like one of the great cats at the Serengeti.
Most people tend to, if they're adults, they're typically hygienic. But the thing is, like some people have like homes that just produce a smell. Like, whenever I was growing up, we lived in this one house that had really bad mold problems. So we didn't notice the smell of mold. But one day when I was in elementary school, some kid was like, "You smell like mold." I'm like, "Well, fuck you." But then I started to kind of think about
off, kid.
I mean, probably at that point, my response was probably something like, "You smell like the dicks you sucked," or something. I don't know. I was a very clever child.
Turnabout, master thereof.
Yes. So, essentially, I kind of asked my teacher. I was like, "Hey, do I smell like mold?" She was like, "Yeah, a little bit. I mean, it's not terribly off-putting, but it's there." So that kind of prompted us to actually, basically, I told my parents, like, "Hey, somebody told me I smell like mold," and we, with the process of getting the mold cleaned, and I stopped smelling like mold. But people's homes, sometimes just kind of have, a scent to them, and it might be self-imposed, like people who use a lot of mothballs and stuff. That kind of gets to me a little bit. Like, whenever I walk by somebody that has, mothball smell on them, it's not necessarily a bad smell, but it's just a strong smell. So, sometimes it's self-inflicted. But, people get nose blind to that. So, I pretty much had to kind of take them aside and say, "Hey, we're not trying to say that, we don't like you or anything, but, you to kind of exude a smell." I promise it was more tactful than that.
Can everybody gather around, please? All right. Now, everyone who doesn't stink like B.O., please take a step backward. Wait, not you, Eric.
Oh, God. But no, it's a really difficult conversation, and I hope I handled it somewhat tactfully. He didn't throw a beverage in my face and, didn't quit the company immediately, so, I assume everything went okay. But no, that is really tough because, some people can't help how they smell, and that really is a very personal conversation with somebody. It's like, hey, that thing that you're really self-conscious about, you should be more self-conscious about it than you are. Like that's a little rough.
It's a difficult conversation to have, and I will be honest, I don't think I've ever had to have that conversation specifically, but because I'm racking my brain here trying to think of a good way to go about this that doesn't involve just like, listen, Martha, damn girl. I'm like, can you give her a Lush gift card, perhaps? And then, that's nice. And now I've got like this money to go spend at a high-end sort of self-care boutique. But then I realized that if this woman is of the crunchy granola variety, it might be less that they're not wearing deodorant, but more that they're like entrusting themselves to some of this like hippie crystal bullshit.
Right.
And like some people are you've got allergies or whatever, but a lot of people will entrust themselves to these new age sort of deodorant products and will have what I like to call a blowout at about 11:30 a.m.
Okay. Please explain this blowout concept.
What I've seen is that these products will work to some extent, but then it just kind of goes away. It's not like a gradual fading. It's like everything is fine, and then whoa.
It's like a little light switch has been flipped. They flipped it from clean to stink.
Exactly. It's like, I'm sorry, Moon Unit, but your crystal has run out of energy here at about 11:30.
I was about to say, like, there's no way that I could stink. I rubbed quartz on myself all for like half an hour this morning. No way I should smell. God bless. Yeah, I hope that my deodorant that I bought at Target works better than some of that hippy dippy stuff, because the last thing I want people describing about my smells is in terms of 11:30 blowout. Not something I want in my headspace. So I'm trying to think of some not so straightforward, because the thing is, if you talk to them straightforward, it will be a difficult conversation. There's nothing to be said about that. Obviously, we said a lot about that, but there's nothing to be said about it. Essentially, you kind of have to have some indirect means. And so I would say, possibly, one way you could go about doing this is in some sort of greeting card form. I'm not saying that this is something you're going to go down to Hallmark and be able to find a card that says, "Smell real bad, Janet." Might want to fix that. But we live in the internet age. There are multiple services that you could use to craft your own greeting card and put whatever level of tact you find appropriate. And on top of that, similar to how whenever you give somebody a birthday card or a going away card, you get everybody in the office to sign it.
Oh no, Derek!
So you get it, and then you take it around to everyone, and so essentially it operates as both a greeting card, but also as kind of a petition. More or less.
Everybody pitched in together and got you this complete embarrassment that you now just have to open up the earth itself, dive in, and pull the ground back in over you.
Oh God.
See,
maybe.
I don't usually have empathy, but I have to say, if someone were to hand me that card, I'm fairly certain that I would just combust on the spot. Like they've been trying to find the secret to spontaneous human combustion, and I think we've discovered it, because I would just open that card, and then I wouldn't even have to light myself on fire. There would just be a flash and the smell of delicious pork products. And I would be no more.
Although I will say, that might lead to people being a little bit curious about what was in the card. Not necessarily like what words are on it, but like, you know, they have some cards that like sing to you, or like stuff pops out. They may want to avoid the cards that like cause you to spontaneously combust. Like that may start a secondary conversation. That's probably not important, not unimportant to have.
Death card. It's a new anime. Just about a greeting card company that every time someone receives one of their cards, they die.
I mean, that's not a service that's unwarranted. I mean, sometimes you got to send somebody a death card.
Yeah, it's a step up from the Death Note, you know? Like,
right. A little more personal. Yeah, so I have no real effective advice for this. It's going to suck. You're going to have to talk to them, or the unspoken option. Live in the stink. Learn how to love the stink.
Just learn to love Janet's personal musk.
Oh God. Can we talk about the word musk for a minute? Like, there are very few words that are so evocative as the word musk. And you know, there are a lot of products, like, and maybe not so much anymore, but like on some of the like colognes, you know, from when I was a kid or from an adolescent, like they had the word musk on it as if it was a positive connotation. Like, do you know when you walked in the zoo and you walked by that exhibit of oxen? This is that distilled down into a liquid you can put on your own body. Like, that is not a selling point. But maybe I wasn't their target audience. I don't know.
The only other thing I can think of that might help is if you strike up a conversation about how you don't like to eat certain food because it can be misinterpreted as the scent of BO. And then just kind of leave that conversation hanging as you walk away. That's the only thing I can think of.
Yeah, I think that is not, of the advice that we have given for this question so far, that is not on the worst side. Like, that is one of the possibly 2 tidbits of takeaway you could take from this conversation.
And then when you get to the other side of the building, you can just turn and yell and be like, Janet, from here I can no longer smell your stank.
And see, you also provided a very important function for them, because now they know what their stink perimeter is.
It's good to have boundaries. And by boundaries, we mean the perimeter of your stank lines.
All right, you want to do an issue from the internet?
Let's hit it.
All right. The title of this one is Best Way to Go About Fixing a Lax Attitude in the Office That I've Created. And this is by Deleted. So...
it's already delicious because it's an issue of their own making. But go on.
Yeah. Since they deleted their own comment or their own post, we're going to go ahead and drag them, and we're going to call them Laxative. All right, so Laxative says, Like the title says, which it doesn't really say, I manage a group of 35 to 40 people, and while there isn't any gross behavior or misconduct going on, I've noticed a lot of little things that are becoming more habitual. Fart humor, light practical jokes. I've seen instances for a while, but never said anything because I don't want to be that manager, in quotations, that squash the fun. But now I notice it more often, and it's starting to give me that little feeling in my stomach that it's not right and could lead to a bigger culture of poor manners and professionalism. No one has complained or anything. I just know it's not right, and I wish I would have put a stop to it from the beginning. Do you think it would be wise to have a meeting to address the overall professionalism in the office, or start addressing the instances immediately one-on-one? So, I'm going to change their name from laxative to wet fucking blanket. God damn. Man. Like, look, I get it. You want to have an office that has a good mixture of, professionalism but lighthearted humor. I get it. But like, just listening to this guy describe it, it's like no one is complaining or anything. I just know it's not right. And I wish I would have put a stop to it from the beginning. Ugh. What a turd.
Oh, God. I had something, Derek. It was all queued up, but it was completely blown out of active memory by the statement, "Ugh, what a turd."
Oh, that's a much better version of the 11 o'clock blowout than we were talking about before.
So, to solve this person's problem, not to necessarily to address the core problem, but to address the problem that they have established here, I think the only thing that you can do is announce loudly to everyone that you are leaving the organization effective immediately, and then go home. But wait, not just leave and then go home because you're a terrible manager.
I think I see where you're going, and I want to double check. So keep going.
But then you change your clothes. You get a fake mustache. And this is especially if you're a woman.
They'll never expect it.
And then you come in the next day and just claim that you are a new manager. Introduce yourself as Javier and say that you've heard that this organization has a lot of problems when it comes to laxity and professionalism, and you run a tight ship. Unlike the previous manager. And some things are going to change around here.
I am so behind this that I am completely turned around on this issue now. Because that is some straight up sitcom bullshit. Like, that is. And the thing is, like, I think you even have to go the extra mile. So essentially, if your name is Martin, you come the next day and you still write down your name as Martin, but you put that little accent over the I.
I am now Martine.
I am now Martine. I heard that Martin left the company for being a bad manager. I will not fall into the same pitfalls. Oh my God. And see, that can introduce so many more funny situations because, if you lean into it and you commit, I mean, essentially, it is just, you're sucking the life out of the office for sure. Like, you will crush your office and make everybody leave. But at the same time, you will have just this delicious satisfaction of confusing the shit out of everybody while you go through your normal, day-to-day routine, acting like you don't know these fuckers.
Derek, you have hit upon how I live my life. I had been starting to write a book about my rules, but I think that's how I go about it.
So I get, like I said, I get the concern that, I mean, especially somebody like myself who is so very, very fond of fart humor. I can see that getting out of hand. Like, a little light flatulence humor, or sharing of some fart related tweets between friends, that's perfectly fine. But then you get into like whoopee cushions and like
Hand buzzers.
spiking hand buzzers. It could probably go downhill pretty fast, and until at the Christmas party, somebody is slipping those tootin' beans into the bean dip, and before long it's it's basically Blazing Saddles. Which is quite possibly just the penultimate highbrow comedy scene in any movie ever.
So I'm thinking, to expound upon my original plan, if you really want to get this done, is you're gonna have to do a Goofus and Gallant. So you're
I'm
coming
not familiar with
in,
this.
and you've got now your Javier all business persona, but then the day after you come in as a new hire, wearing like some bad glasses and maybe some fake buck teeth, and introduce yourself as Mr. Seymour Butts, and you just yuck it up so bad that no one can stand you. And now you've got you're playing yourself off of yourself.
Okay. So I can see that. I mean, essentially, you're giving them so much of the behavior that you want to change that they become sick of it, and they're like, "Guys, we really have to, to get our act together, because is this what we want? Like, is this what they feel we deserve? This chuckle fuck?" And so then, so what? I guess once that all has allowed to kind of marinate a little while, so what's the end game? Does he get fired and you get rehired, or like what's the end game?
I think that's definitely what we're gonna have to do. At some point, Seymour is gonna have to be terminated from the organization, and Javier is going to have to come in and say, I've taught you as much as I can. I hope you realize that the professionalism was within you the entire time. And then you walk out. The only crinkle to this is if you accidentally actually get fired in the midst of this, because that could put a wrinkle in the whole thing.
Yeah, that would be very difficult to. I think you would have to kind of like let HR in on the goof, because this is definitely something that you would need higher up approval. I mean, especially since you were essentially like doing their own like hiring and firing them, for them. I think they need to be consulted. But I think if they're on the goof, I think you're okay. But no, if they're not, you're in deep shit. So I was thinking initially, like, how would it go if you're Fart McFarterson and going around doing I don't know, what what are horrible things, like just like walking over people's desks and just like farting in their file cabinet or something. I mean, it's like, I'm gonna save that for later. It's like doing things that are terribly raunchy and bad, and then later on, essentially, you kind of like people are complaining to you about it. It's like, sir, we don't think that's how we should acting in this office, and essentially you kind of pull off the glasses and the buck teeth, and it's the big reveal of, oh no, I was not Farty McFarterson. I was actually Javier, your real manager. And now you know how to find the balance between the yucks and professionalism.
See, Derek, I'm afraid of what might happen, and what might happen is this person will realize that truly they were Seymour Butts all along. And now all they've done is they've made it worse.
See, that's the problem. When you stare into Seymour's butt sometimes stares back. and it's a risk. But if you're gonna win the prize, you got to play the dangerous game.
You got to put it all on the line.
That's right.
You got to take it to the limit.
Oh, you're not gonna get me, Frank. I'm not gonna karaoke that one. I almost did, but I thought, you know what? If I karaoke that song, evil wins. In this case, it is not typically doing nothing is what it takes for evil men to win, but in this case, that's what it took for an evil man not to win.
Well done, Derek.
Food for thought.
Want to punch the clock?
Yeah, let's punch the clock. If you have any questions you'd like for us to answer on air, send them to questions@WLIcast.com. You can also visit us on Facebook on...
You are on a roll
Wow.
tonight.
Jesus Christ. Have I done any pre-prepared? I think I introduced myself well. I think that's the only thing that I have read off of a screen and not fucked up.
Tonight was entirely brought to you by Dirty D.
Yes, exactly. See, it all came back around. Dirty D was my alter ego that is showing how shitty a podcast can be. And now when Derek returns next week, they'll be like, oh, what a breath of fresh air. And my normal level of shittiness will no longer be a bane, it will be a boon. If you have any questions you'd like for us to answer on air, send them to questions@WLIcast.com. You can also visit us on Facebook at facebook.com/WLIcast or on Twitter @WLImbalance and use the hashtag WLIcast.
This has been the Work-Life Imbalance Podcast. I'm Frank Eastman.
And I'm Dirty D!
And with that, I think we're going to have to transfer you, specifically to HR.
Oh, God.
Dirty D and Javier Hardworker.
Oh, my goodness. We're just a couple of chuckle fucks.
I think I'm going to get that on the next set of business cards, Derek.